Hello everybody, welcome back to Tempest Books. I'm Rebecca and today we are doing our January wrap-up. Okay, so in January I read 11 books, which sounds like I got an awesome start to the month, but it wasn't really that cool because I actually had quite a few rereads in this month's list. It was very much a comfort read. But there's still 11 books to go through, so that's what we're doing. So I read 2 ebooks this month. One was essentially just really a novella, and the other one was a decently sized book, the first of 4. So our first ebook was the novella called Primordial Earth, the prequel by Bailey Higgins. So this was, again, just a tiny little novella, but it was a really interesting premise, and I'm actually quite looking forward to the rest of the series because I do have the rest of the series on e-reader. I got it in one of those awesome, Amazon clumps all the books in a series together and then sells it for like $1 or so. Like, I will have that, yes, because it sounds awesome. It is kind of apocalyptic, also kind of dystopian. What happens is we have great chunks of cities from around the world, although we only look at one of them. And everyone is just going about their normal day when some sort of odd mist-like curtain just falls across everything. People are just driving their cars on the highway. This mist curtain falls and all of a sudden they drive into the leg of a T-Rex. Okay? Cool. And all these chunks of cities and all the people in them have just suddenly been transported back in time to the dinosaur era. I'm not sure which dinosaur era it is, I can't remember, but they're just all of a sudden there. And we follow in the beginning of the book one boy who was in the car with his parents when the mysterious curtain fell, and then we have a bit of a quick time jump and we explore what the society has become, like what the people that were left in that part of the city that got transported have become, and how they've dealt with the dinosaurs surrounding them, things like that. It's, like I said, a short novella. It just kind of establishes where the story is and who we're following as main characters, but I did enjoy it. It's such a unique premise. I've never read anything like it before. And, the writing was good. I feel like the one person that we follow, like his ability to do as he did is a little bit unrealistic, but so is time travel. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. It was a good novella and it seemed like a good start to the series, so hopefully the rest of the series will maintain that quite good start. So the second ebook I read is the first of 4 books. I have all 4 and it is a completed series, and it's called The Gang of Ghouls. Now this is a kind of supernatural, a little tiny bit dark romance. It's a White Shoes, got 1 female and 4 males. There really hasn't been any actual white shoes in the first book, a little bit, but kind of not really. It was an interesting start. We have one girl who is, in the beginning, very small, plays in the swamp a lot because she doesn't have the best home life. Her and her little sister, they're playing in the swamp, and one day the girl wakes up and she is just somewhere different. She is in an insane asylum and she has no idea why. She's told she did something terrible and that she hurt people and that people are now afraid of her, and she can't leave the asylum until she's all better. Now, while she was playing in the swamp as a girl, just before this happened, she kind of had these imaginary friends, what she thought were imaginary friends, just the barest of whispers in the back of her head. But they were actually 4 ghosts of men who had been killed and dumped in the swamp. Now, when our main character finally manages to come back to her hometown, she's finally released from her insane asylum. Sorry, I'm not sure, I can't remember how they term it. It's not insane asylum, it was... I can't remember, but yeah, there was a very nice way of putting it, but essentially she was trapped there and they wouldn't let her go until she was deemed sane again. And so she gets home, she's determined she's going to be as normal as she possibly can. No one's going to, provoke her to do anything and, bring back up the I'm crazy kind of banner that's followed her around. And her coming back to town reawakens these 4 male spirits who were kind of set into kind of slumber, I guess also call it hibernation. spiritual hibernation. But when she comes back into the area, they kind of wake up and go, oh, she's come back, something terrible has happened. We promised we'd look after her and we haven't done it, so now we need to do it. And to do that, we need bodies. So it's definitely a supernatural kind of ghost is going to take over that body, and he's in the driver's seat now. I was a bit surprised a bit later in the book when other supernatural elements came in. I don't know why I was surprised, we've already got ghosts, but yeah, I was a bit surprised when a bit more came in. So this first book was definitely establishing who these four men are, their different personalities, a bit more of a look into who the girl is, what her likes and dislikes are. You know, we establish her as a character. It was a good start book. I didn't mind it. There were a couple of spice scenes. They weren't particularly, you know, out there or anything. I think there were a total of three, maybe two. They weren't memorable, unfortunately. And that kind of is where our why choose comes in a little bit, because they're both, each scene was with one of the different men, but only two of the four. But it was a good start to the books, and I will read the rest of them because they were interesting. They weren't very hard to get through. The writing was quite light, and I found some of the things I had a little bit of trouble with was kind of an unrealistic look at academic areas that she was a part of because she's going to college. So that bothered me a little bit. I kind of had to suspend belief for a couple of the areas that weren't supernatural, which I wasn't as fond with, I suppose, because I spend so much time in academia. But it is what it is. It's not a bad book so far. I think I rated it, 3.5 or 4 stars. That's probably 3.5 stars, I think. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. Hang on, I think I wrote it down. Yes, I gave it 3.5 stars. So yeah, it wasn't a bad book. I didn't mind it, and I'll look forward to reading the rest. So the first set of rereads that I did for the month was The Sinner's Duet by Sophie Lark. So we've got There Are No Saints and There Is No Devil. This is quite a dark serial killer romance. So this is a completed duet, and we follow Cole and Mara. So the main male character is Cole, main female character is Mara. And Cole is an unrepentant serial killer. He is very much a very, very lacking emotion, lacking compassion, very typically portrayed serial killer for literature. And Mara is an artist who is really, really scraping by. She had a terrible childhood. And she is determined to commit herself to her art as much as she can. She works as many jobs as she can, to utilise to be able to. And it is the story that follows the two of them, how their start is really rocky initially, how they come to accept each other, how, one brings out the worst in the other, but also the best. The main thing that I took away from this series for me was an appreciation for how how Cole, as a serial killer, maintained his unemotionalness. Like, he didn't all of a sudden sprout emotions and he loves her desperately or anything like that. He found that he is able to deeply care for her through the width and breadth of the emotions that he does have. So the emotions that he interprets towards her for love in the end is very much obsession, very much focus, and possessiveness, things like that. So he definitely has, romantic emotions for Mara, but they're very different from what a neurotypical person would explain their emotions to be. So I like that. I found that really interesting. And I don't know, I suppose because of my background in criminology and psychology, I like reading these kinds of books. I like looking at how authors portray people like this, and how they portray connection and emotion when, as they are in themselves, people like this, how different they are from a neurotypical person. So I enjoyed this series. There was quite a bit of spice once the spice started, a bit of a slow burn for quite a while there. But once the spice started, it was very spicy, and there was definitely quite a few scenes where, check your trigger warnings, because it was not run-of-the-mill spice at all. There was very much, the aggression was brought into it, should I kill her in this moment? I could, kind of thing. So there were definitely dark spice in here, but I like that just as much as the normal spice, so. I think I rated the series together 4 stars because it's unique, or it is unique in the way it's portrayed, and I found it quite fun. So one of the new to me books that I read this month was Butcher and Blackbird. Is it? Yeah. Butcher and Blackbird by Bren Weaver. I keep forgetting that there's an and but not a the. So there's Butcher and Blackbird. And I love this book. This book was so good. This was actually my best read of the month. I've done a video on, 5 reasons you should totally read it. I absolutely adored the humor in this book. This book focuses on 2 serial killers. I would say there's a theme in my reading, but in reality there was only the 3 books that are like it. But yeah, these 2 are serial killers. They both are. And they're not portrayed as being neurodivergent, really. They are just people who really like killing, who feel that as far as they're concerned, they're doing a public service because they kill bad guys. And they meet up one day accidentally because they've found that they've essentially collided because they were both going to kill the one dude. And so we've got Sloane and Rowan, and I keep mixing up who is the female and who's the male with those names, because I've known people with those names the opposite way around. So we've got Sloane as the female and Rowan as the male, and I know people that, again, with the names the other way around, so I keep mixing it up in my head. So in my other video, I keep referring to them as the male main character and the female main character, because I didn't want to spend a really long time editing out my, oh no, wait, that's the wrong name, this name moments. But so yeah, they're both serial killers, and they like each other when they meet. They're fun. They find appreciation in each other's works. They like them as a people, although Sloane is very suspicious of Rowan at first. She really doesn't want to trust him. She's really not sure about him. But she takes the chance because she has been recently scolded about the fact that she's got no friends other than one. And she really needs to make friends. And what better friend to have than a dude who kills people too? So that works out. And so every year, once a year, they meet up and they run this competition, essentially. It's okay, there's a killer in this area, there's a bad guy doing something, or, there's another serial killer. And the first person to figure out who it is gets to kill them. And so, it's a competition. They want to win, because every year one person wins and then the other person wins. And, and then that second person wins a second year in a row. It's like, oh no, the first person's got to catch up. So it was a fun book. I loved it. I love the fact that there was no killing angst. It's not, oh my God, I shouldn't be killing people, but I really want to, but I should control myself. None of that stuff. And the just complete acceptance of it by them and family and friends was so refreshing. I loved that aspect of it. However, I will never forgive the author for the ice cream. Never. It's the first time I have in my life simultaneously been completely grossed out and really amused in a scene. I will never forgive the ice cream. Never. I would rather go back to them scooping out eyeballs. Just no ice cream. And I haven't eaten ice cream since. I just haven't been able to. But oh well. So this one was definitely a 4.5 star book. I loved it. The reason, unfortunately, it didn't go all the way up to 5 stars is the emotional relationship angst ended up just becoming repetitive to me. I didn't particularly like it. It's just emotional and relationship angst and drama has just never been my cup of tea. It's not fun for me. It's why I don't watch drama on TV. So other than that, it was excellent and I loved it. And of the 2 characters, actually, Rowan, the main male character, is probably my favourite, because this book showed an amazing ability to just suddenly flip the character. So the main male character would suddenly go from, oh, puppy, happy, love her so much, I fell first, I fell really hard, to bang, predator, kill that person. Bang like that, just whoosh. And it was really well portrayed, and I quite like that. So, yes. Butcher and Blackbird by Bren Weaver, definitely 4.5 stars. It is hilarious, it is gory, and it was the best book I read in January. It was definitely going to be probably at the top of my list at the end. So technically I read 2 books of this. This is book 1 to 5. It's a Zombie Apocalypse, The Book of Riley by Mark Tufo. This is actually the first book I've ever read by this author. He has a huge series to do with zombies. It is like a 25 book series just with the main character for one arc of him. And it is also a series, that series like branches out into a bunch of other kind of splinter world series, I think. Like in one, he goes to another planet through dimensional portal or something. And in another one, there's werewolves or lichens. Okay, there's a lot of books in that series. That's a big commitment. I'll start with this one, I think. So the Book of Riley is about an American bulldog in the zombie apocalypse. Now, she is determined to look after her remaining pack. So a lot of them are lost in the initial wave of zombies, but she is damn well going to look after her person. And she is helped by, the Yorkshire Terrier called Ben Ben. If this guy has two brain cells to rub together, then he's not entirely sure where they are to be able to rub them together. They're floating around in his cortex somewhere, but the chances of them meeting aren't high. And the terrible arch enemy, Patches the cat. To be honest, Patches the cat is my favourite character out of the whole book. And look, to be honest, so far it is as cool as the premise was and as amusing as a couple of the things that happen in the book are. I'm not real fond of it so far. So the first story that I read in out of the 5 got 3 stars. The next one kind of bopped down to about 2.5. I wasn't happy with some of the decisions that were made. It also has this really weird juxtaposition in it of the mix of childhood and animal innocence, starkly displayed next to just the horrors that humans will commit to each other and themselves in this kind of situation. And it's so incongruent that it's a little bit difficult to enjoy while reading. Like, it's a really cool idea on paper, but it just didn't quite seem to work out in a way that made it good. So I'm not real fond of it so far. It's hard to go into any more of it without being a spoiler, but there was an influx of extra elements that felt really weird to be sticking into a zombie apocalypse. So look, I'm not over fond of it so far. I will finish the book because I do want to see how it ends. My best take out of it is Patches the cat, who is very, very much a cat, who is very self-serving, very snooty, a freaking genius. There's like human level intelligence in this cat. So yeah, I'll keep you updated on it, but so far the total book is just, it's not getting better. It's kind of more going downhill for me. So it's sitting at about 2.5 so far. But we will see how we go with this one. Okay, so my final new read for this month was Kill the Dead by Richard Kadri. So this is the second Sandman Slim book. I read the first one in December, and I think I technically actually started this one in December, but I finished it in the first few days of January. And I really struggle in how I want to rate this book, because I understand why the author did what they did. Doesn't mean I have to like it. So the first book was amazing. It was a start to the series that was stellar. 5 stars. Sandman Slim is a man who was sent to hell alive. He was banished to hell by his supposed friends, and he spent 11 years down there as a gladiator and an assassin. And, you know, he worked his way into a really protected position, a really respected position. He learnt hell magic, because this is a world that has magic in it. So it's our world, but it has magic. And the first book, it blew me away. It was amazing. I loved just how determined Sandman Slim was. James Stark, Sandman Slim. He was entirely focused on where he was going. There was no angst. There was no indecision. There was nothing that would stand between him and his goal successfully. And then you came to this book. And within about 50 pages, I'm going, what happened? You were everything excellent in the first book. You were determined. There was no indecision. There was no, oh, woe is me. There was nothing. It was excellent. And then you come into this book and it's like, he may as well have had a flashing sign above his head saying existential crisis here. What are you doing, man? It's like you've crumbled into nothing, and all you can do is drink and whine about yourself and whine about everything. And no, that's not how this works, man. I almost DNF'd it, and then zombies came. And so I went, okay, I will continue to give you a chance. That, the zombies and the fact that I've got the rest of the series sitting up there and I don't want to DNF booktube and then have that series sitting there for the next 6 years looking at me going, why aren't you reading this? So it was a good book in the end because I stopped to really think about it and understand why the character had to do what he did. So it made sense, the fact that James Stark had to go through this period of what now? What does my life mean now? What do I do? What am I? What is the point of anything? Because he achieved his goal in that first book. He did what he set out to do. And now what? Life is empty now. What do I do? I'm stuck here on Earth. I've got nothing but a talking head and a failing business. So I understood why there was so much angst. I understood why there was so much change in the character as himself compared to the first book. And so by the time I got to the end of it, I was accepting of the fact that objectively it's a good book. It did what it needed to do. It set up the character's kind of self-foundation for going forward in the series. But again, just because I understand it and objectively I can say it did well doesn't mean I have to like it, because it that's what, you know, liking or not liking a book is about. You pick something on based on what you know your tastes are, what you know you like or don't like, and when a book doesn't meet those expectations, you're allowed to dislike a book. Doesn't mean it's objectively bad. It just means I'm not particularly pleased with it, but I will continue on to the series. It was a needed book. It did what was required, and I appreciate having read it for what it will give the rest of the series, but I will never reread it. So yes, it was, what did I rate it in the end? It got 3 stars in the end. It kept above like 2 to 2.5 because I can appreciate the necessity of it. But again, doesn't mean I have to love it. And the final 4 books that I read for January were, again, they were rereads. I polished off an entire series by Charlene Harris. So we have got here the Harper Connolly series by Charlene Harris. So you may know this author as the author who wrote the books that the TV series True Blood was based on. So I didn't like that series. I wasn't a fan of the TV show either. And so frankly, I had dismissed the author as one that I probably just wouldn't read again because her writing just wasn't to my taste. But then I came across this series, and now it is basically one of my favorite series. It is complete. It's 4 books. And we follow a woman called Harper Connolly, whose ability was given to her by a lightning strike. Poor girl was standing in the trailer one day, curling her hair, and got struck by lightning through a window. And now she can find dead bodies. They buzz in her head. She describes it as having like a Geiger counter or a swarm of bees in her head. Whenever she's approaching a dead body, they light up. And the closer she gets to the body, the more intense the sensation gets. Now, the older the body, the kind of more mild the sensation completely. And the newer the body is, the more it is just, a thunder in her head that she cannot escape. Now, this series follows both her and her stepbrother, Tolliver. So she and Tolliver were introduced to each other as early teens when Harper's mother and Tolliver's father got married. Now, those parents were not very good parents. They were drug addicts. They were originally lawyers, like high-end lawyers, who unfortunately became enamored with their clients' lifestyles. So they would get the rich and powerful and bad out of charges, but in exchange they developed their own drug habit, essentially, and did, as sometimes happens, severely decline for the rest of their life. And so by the time Harper and Tolliver meet, their parents are shadows of their former selves, and the 2 combined families are living in a trailer. Now, I'm not going to go into it a huge amount more because I'm actually going to do a video on this series, but it follows Harper and Tolliver as they utilize her abilities to essentially make a living for themselves. So they find dead bodies. Families can hire her to help search for a body if there's an area that she can search in. And police also hire her because when Harper finds the body, if she can either touch it or stand over where it is buried, she's able to instantly know their name and how they died. Now, she experiences the last few moments of that person's life. That doesn't necessarily mean she knows who killed them or anything like that. She simply knows cause of death and the person's name. So that gets them into lots of adventures that they don't want to be in. And it is a really, really well-written series in that it is well communicated just how much resistance poor Harper meets. Like, the police hate her. Yes, they'll use her, but they're disgusted by her. Everyone thinks she's a charlatan. Everyone thinks she's out to just bilk people out of their money, and they're perfectly willing to treat her as they feel she should be treated without ever giving her a chance. And so by the time you meet Harper, she's already been doing this with her brother a few years, and she is very jaded. She's got no care for anyone. She's there to do her job. She's there to get paid, and then she's there to get the hell out. There are a couple of plot threads that, go through the whole book. There's a central story that is being chased. And yeah, it's an excellent series. Frankly, 5-star series for me. I reread it at least once a year, and I will be doing a bigger video on it soon. So that's it. That is our January wrap-up. 11 books with mostly a reasonably high rating. It was a good reading month for me, mostly because I enjoyed my rereads. I picked books that were, that I wanted to read, that I was happy to read. So yes, it was a good month. It was an excellent laugh book. And so now I'm going to go and find them all places in the shelves again. And I will see you next time, guys. Bye.